What horrible ridiculous names have you heard parents choose to call their children? The kid's name was William. Unfortunately for the kid, he had a nickname that was spelled Liam. That doesn't sound so bad until you hear the pronunciation, yum. Like, William. They called their child Yum and spelled it Lam. No teacher in my classes with him could ever say his name correctly, so he eventually gave up, and we all called him the normal sounding Liam. I'm a firm believer that you don't get to take a common spelling and change the pronunciation. If your name is spelled the same as a common pronunciation, I'm going to use that pronunciation. If you want to be called Yum, then change your fucking name to Yum Hadder or something like that. You forgot the numbers. No, I'm not joking. My neighbor was the 12th kid. His parents named him 12er. That's gotta be the worst I've ever seen. So quick fun history fact. In the days of the American Revolution, like that era, this was a fairly common practice. BC kids died so easily. Parents did one of two things. The first one was the one you mentioned, where they just kinda assigned a kid a number. The second thing they did is that if they named their child Amanda, and Amanda died, they would just give that name to the next child that popped out. So you'd have two siblings named Amanda, the oldest one would be dead and the youngest would take the name. Sorta just like replacing it. Salvador Dali's dead older brother was also Salvador Domingo Felipe Jacinto Dali I Domenech. His parents believed their second son was the reincarnation of their first son. The Dallas took little Salvador to his brother's grave, which had their shared name written on the tombstone, and told their young son that it was his own grave. Salvador Dali apparently grew up to genuinely believe that he was his brother's reincarnation, and incorporated his dead brother into some of his paintings, namely Portrait of My Dead Brother, 1963. I work at a college and often go through the new applications to process them. I've seen all kinds. Most ridiculous name I've seen thus far though. Starscream Anakin as his first and middle names. He has a normal last name. When I first saw it, I was certain that it was a kid fucking with our application system. Then I met him in person, and he showed me his ID. His name is legally Starscream Anakin. I get the Anakin part, but of all the Transformers to name your kid after, why on earth make it Starscream? He was just awful. I work with a couple that named their son Anakin Sky. I've worked with them for months and just put it together that their last name is Walker. Anakin Skywalker. Their 16-year-old daughter is named Isis. Pretty name but did not age well in the US. My dad wanted to name my brother Luke Sky for the exact same reason. Luckily for him, mom figured it out and objected. My mother is a genealogist and discovered that my great something grandparents were named Lettuce and Nimrod. A power couple. Update. I spoke with my mom and she said that her name was Lettuce with an I, so y'all were right. And it probably wasn't pronounced lettuce like I imagined, but rather Letitia or something. They were married around the 1840s. The joys of genealogy. Another update. Thanks for silver, my first reward. Nimrod used to be a respected name. Nimrod was a mighty hunter in the Bible. Then Bugs Bunny called Elmer Fudd Nimrod sarcastically, and so the meaning completely changed. Thank you for explaining how Nimrod went from a biblical name to an insult. I learned something today. Well, let's just say that the state I live in doesn't have a significant English-speaking population, especially in the rural regions, despite the official language of the country, India, being English and most of the urban population being educated. However, I have friends whose parents gave them names like Benadryl, Goodbye, Very Helpful and the absolute worst dishwasher. This, however, is because people from the rural regions, especially in the Northeast, come to the cities and see words and ads and billboards that they find pretty and innocently name their children after a variety of brands. I don't always blame them. I had a family friend who came off as very posh and educated, spoke perfect English, but named his daughter Darth Vader. Some of them are just trolling. Do not underestimate people of the hills. They don't take your bullshit, educated or otherwise. This question is yielding some unexpected insights. I'm from the other end of the country and I have relatives who named their son, the firstborn, Clito. In the local accent it was pronounced Clito. When the next child was born it was a girl and they wanted a rhyming name, so no joke, they named her Clitty. My boyfriend's mom was born in the countryside in mainland China. Her given name literally means lucky truck in Chinese. I asked why her name was so odd, since Chinese naming traditions are usually really complex. Apparently, her parents were illiterate and also decided not to go to the fortune teller for name advice. They just picked something they thought sounded nice and then picked characters that were easy to write with the same pronunciation. Edit. I forgot to say, her name has a second meaning as U/K0L pointed out. Delivery truck. The first character in her name has two meanings depending how it's used. I prefer lucky truck since it sounds better, haha. Dishwasher. You're an appliance. I had a roommate in law school from Ghana whose name was Happiness. Her nickname was Happy. Christgift. Christ will and Christ good, all siblings. Bless their hearts. That's some Puritan level naming. Not as catchy as fly fornication but strong contenders. I have an ancestor whose name was Preserved Fish. Wait, I'm pretty sure I also have an ancestor named Preserved Fish. Colonial New Englander? Probably in Rhode Island or Massachusetts. Are we super distant cousins? Mine was in Portsmouth, Rhode Island. My 9th great grandfather on my mother's side. He married a woman named Ruth Cook who was from Tiverton, I think. Apparently he also had a grandson named Preserved Fish. Preserved #2. I'm descended from #2's sister. There was also a Captain Preserved Fish, #3, also from Portsmouth, who's my 6th cousin 5 times removed, who's also descended from the grandfather of the first Preserved #1, and another Preserved Fish, #4. Who was the grandson of #1's uncle. I stopped digging into that branch of the tree after #4 because honestly Preserved and Fish stopped looking like real words. I'm also a distant cousin. Never thought I'd see someone mention their relative name Preserved Fish. OK Arthur Doak. We called him OK. He was the youngest of 5 kids. Fancy, named after the Reba song, and her sister Truly, named after Truly Scrumptious from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Secret love. She was a kid my mom met when my mom worked at a pediatrician's office. Secret Love's mom laid out the whole story to my mom about the name. Go on. The mom had a boyfriend her dad did not like, and so she dated him in secret. Everyone else in her family knew she was dating this guy. But the boyfriend was not the dad, it was different guy. Her true love. Guy 2 was the dad. But no one knew about him and thought it was the boyfriend. Hence, the name. And yes, she was a teen mom. My favorite I saw while working as a banker was Subway Club Ala's supreme middle name, last name. His parents named him this, and he wanted a loan to open a weed store in a state where it is illegal. To clarify, his middle name is middle name. I forgot the last name, but it was just a normal last name. Middle name as a middle name is such a power move. It's the name equivalent of putting bottom text at the bottom of a meme. Truly an inspiration. I'm renaming myself middle name bottom text. Macaulay Culkin's middle name is Macaulay Culkin. So his full name is literally Macaulay Culkin. His nickname is also Macaulay Culkin. So he's Macaulay Culkin. I thought his middle name is Carson. Yes, this was their legal name. I worked with someone named Baby. Before I knew of her, I saw an email that started with "Hey baby." She and I were on the same email distribution list, and I thought, I guess this guy didn't do the mandatory annual anti-sexual harassment training. I couldn't believe it when I realized that was her actual name. A woman named Darling worked at a place we dealt with for business. We soon got used to it, but whenever my husband answered the phone, "Hello darling," and I was in the room, he got some looks. I know a Darling. She is a sweet lady. So you're saying she's a darling? I saw an AMA of this girl whose divorced parents just can't get together to go file in a name, and she just lived as baby girl all the way, and she's gonna change it at 18 legally herself.